Thanks for watching. Today I'm going to go over the details of how to use the SEC data to do your own mutual fund research. It is a straightforward process, as you will see, and it can be done either manually or using a computer program. For the purpose of this quick video, we're just going to cover the manual process by which you can review all the necessary data which you will need to help you make an educated decision before you invest in a mutual fund. The SEC is the Securities and Exchange Commission is the government body which oversees publicly traded companies and investment companies, of which mutual funds are a special type. The information covered in this is not mutual fund advice, so we're assuming that you know what mutual funds are, what they do. This here is to provide you with a simple but extremely effective way to get all the information you need to research mutual funds in details before you invest your money. So if you go to any mutual fund research website, just go to any one of them and plug in any mutual fund ticker symbol. The result you will get from them are all based on the information we're going to review here today. Some companies use computer programs to process and package this information and sell it to investors. But that information is free to everyone or anyone who's got the time and the expertise to review it, to analyze it, because it's provided to you as part of the government's Public Dissemination Service. That's the PDS. One thing also to note is that mutual fund companies are sometimes clients of the research companies, and that creates some conflict. So it's always good to do your own research, even if that service is provided to you by your financial advisor or your broker. You need to know what you're putting your money into. When information service companies package this data and sell it, they're actually providing an extremely valuable service to people who don't have the time to do it, or people who have the money to pay for it. But as a small investor, because remember, it takes a lot of resources and time to come through vast amounts of data. In this quick video, we're just going to focus on the manual process. For a small or individual investor, this process is sufficient for you to get all the information you may need on any fund and just review it to make your decision. So let's get started. If you want to follow along and compare the information we're going to see here with any internet mutual fund research website quote, you can go ahead and just plug them in as we go along. You'll see that the information is the same. The differences might be in the timing, because some people pull the information more frequently than others. The information may lag. And then also some research companies have proprietary ratios that they use to analyze performance. And we don't cover any of this here. We just want you to know where the information is, help you pull it, and it'll be your responsibility to do the analysis to make sure that you are an informed investor. So with that said, let us switch over to the SEC's website and start to look into it. Now, for the sake of time, I am going to use a mutual fund symbol that I already had there What I want you to take a look at, take a look at this URL. That's the SEC website, but this particular URL, the mutual fund search, is the direct page to it's the direct page to mutual fund search, because you can do searches of publicly traded companies, but for the purpose of this, we're just doing mutual funds. Now, so I'm going to plug in this, and I'm going to click on search. Okay. Now we get to a screen where we have what's called a CIK, the series, and the class. The CIK is a unique identifier for the company that manages the mutual funds. There are a number of companies that manage mutual funds, and so this would identify each one uniquely. In the companies that manage mutual fund, they group them into series. So the series may have 3-4 funds, and they actually call it's really one fund, but they call them classes. And this here is the class code. Each mutual fund has its own class and its own class identifier. For this particular one, it's the advisor class, and we keep in mind that the classes inside of a series, they all invest in the same things. The difference is the amount of money you may need to purchase this investment, the amount of fees that you pay, and the length of time that you may have to hold the fund to either avoid paying some fees or get a discounted fee. So that's basically the difference between the classes, but they all invest in the same thing, as you will see. So now I'm going to click on the class link. If you click on this, it'll take you to the same place. And if you click on that, it'll take you to a place where you can find information for all the funds that this particular company manage. But in this case, we're focusing on this symbol that I plugged in on that mutual fund search screen. I'm going to click on that, and this takes us to a screen with a series of reports. Now, there are 3 reports here. For the purpose of the manual process, there are 3 reports that we are going to focus on. One is of minor importance. That's the full prospectus. And then the other 2 are the ones that we're going to look into in some details. So the first one is the certified, and by the way, when you look at reports on this screen, always try to get the report that's at the top of the screen. So this certified shareholder report, we are going to use this certified shareholder report, the NCSR report. This will take you to a screen where you just have to go use the HTML file that's at the top. It says NCSR here. You click on that, and then this takes you to a full-fledged prospectus. I usually just take a look at the, takes a little while to load. I look at the top, fund manager, some disclosures here. Basically, I look for, when I'm on that page, when I come to it, I usually look for the portfolio summary. Portfolio summary. Okay, here's the portfolio summary here. It'll give you details about the top 10 stocks, which is usually what I'm interested in. Just to take a quick look, you can see it there. And that's basically the extent of what I do here. I look at probably the breakdown in terms of segment sectors that this fund invests in, and if you need information about the address and all of that, you can just scroll down all the way to the bottom. But as far as this is concerned, I rarely come here. So now this is the extent of what we will discuss about the prospectus. Now the next two reports, which we're going to go into details. The first one is the NPort P report. That's the monthly portfolio report. And then the last one is the 497K, not the 497, the 497K, this one. But we will review the NPort report first, NPort P report. So we go in there. And remember, I was telling you that all the classes belonging to one series all invest in the same things. And this is that. And you basically click on the top private primary underscore doc.html. At the end of the video, I'm going to quickly review how to automate this with a computer, and this is where the primary doc.xml will come into play. But for now, the focus of this video is the manual process. Let's click on the primary doc.html, and we'll come to an HTML page. Top of the form, CIK, that's the company code, the series and the classes that are covered by this report, meaning they all have the same investment, and this gives you some information about the fund company. Okay, and the name of the series, and a bit of details about the fund's financials. Total assets of this fund is 168 million of assets. That's the liability. Net asset, that's the full asset less the liability. And then everything else, that's zero, I ignored. Cash and cash equivalent, I don't worry about that. It shows you how much cash is on hand. And then securities lending is something that mutual funds use to bring in more income, because they buy stocks for the long term, and another company may want to borrow those shares to do things. We don't have to worry about that, but this is what it is. And the company that handles these securities lending for this mutual fund is called, it's this trust company. The bottom line is the securities lending, the company basically lends its shares that it's holding when it purchases its investments, and they usually hold them for a long time, so they make money by lending them out for whatever reason. We're not going to go, and this is not necessary for us to analyze. And then on this form, it gives you, for each class, it tells you about return for the past month, past 2 months, past 3 months for each class. So this fund has been doing pretty good. You could say 1 month from the time of this report, 2 months, and 3 months. And for each class, it tells you the same information. And now the next thing that's going to be important, this also, you can take a look at that to see what's coming in and out of the fund. For example, this one is sold, and that has to do with the fund, with the fund turnover, um, what they buy, what they sell, what they redeem, and then that's what happens right before the report was submitted, and all of this is there. And now this is the important section of that report. The rest of this file, of this page, is a list of all the investments in this fund, no matter what it is. For example, this fund, the first investment that is listed is something that's happening with this bank, and we can see that it's related to buying and selling currencies. So these funds sometimes they have cash on hand that's not invested in stocks or bonds or securities. They use it to do short-term trading for the purpose of bringing in cash. So in that case, they're trading currencies. That's the number of contracts that they bought. The balance here is always related to this amount. And as you can see, this is not the purpose of the fund, but the funds doesn't make any money by having cash sitting in the bank, so they do some other things with it, and it qualifies it as derivative foreign exchange. So I'm going to scroll down. So each section of this, starting up where we saw this, is going to list all of that. Anytime you see a mutual fund doing business with a bank, it's usually derivative or foreign exchange. I'm looking for something now that says it's a investment lining up with the purpose of the fund. All of this is still okay. Now we're up to this investment is in a company called Temenos AG, and note that this fund is an international fund, so you'll see a lot of companies from all over the world, and it gives you the name of the company, the title of the investment, ISIN, which we don't need to worry about. Balance, that's 31,993 shares, because it's this of that, and it's the currency is Swiss franc, and that's the amount so far invested in that company, and that's the exchange rate, because this is submitted to the SEC in the US, and we need the exchange rate to know how it lines up with the US dollar. And then this is the percentage of that investment in the fund, and then it tells you what type of investment. Remember, the other one says it was derivative foreign exchange. This one says equity common, and it says corporate. So they bought equity shares, stocks of a company, and that company is based out of Switzerland. And then all of this information then goes all the way down. Probably there's probably 20 of these or 25. And you would basically take this information and put it in a spreadsheet and line it up to review it. So as you can see, all the way down the page, right before the signature of the fund and CFO of the fund, it's all investments, and maybe some minor notes. It's all investments. So all the fund's investments are there. You'll know which companies they invest in. If they're not investing in companies, you'll know if they're doing securities lending. You'll know if they're doing foreign exchange, derivative. Everything will be there, and then that helps you decide whether you're comfortable with that. Because that's not going to show, these types of transactions are not going to show on the big research websites. They usually show you the top 10, or they show you the investments that are, like the core of the fund. If it's an equity fund, they'll show you just the stocks. They won't show you anything else. But it's good to know that information so you understand what they're investing your money into, so that you know if you're comfortable doing working with them. Now this is it for the import P report. The next thing is, so this will take you some time to just take this information, plug it into a spreadsheet, which is where the automation comes in. But for somebody looking at one or two funds on a monthly basis, this is sufficient. It gives you all the information you need. So now let's take a look at the 497K. 497K, always work from the top of the list so you catch the most recent report submission to the SEC. So this one is a summary prospectus. Remember the big prospectus we saw, long, hundreds of pages, lots of information. These funds are also required to provide a summary of the prospectus in a standard format. The normal prospectus has no format. It's based on what the fund, how the fund wants to present itself. But this summary has a format, and they all follow the same format, which we're going to see now. Again, all the classes are covered by this 497K, and we're going to go into the HGM page. This is the name of the fund here. We're going to go into the HGM page, and with the HGM page you can see the summary. The top of the summary is right here, and you'll see the investment objective, which is just a basic objective. It doesn't go into the details of the fund strategies. We're going to see that down below. But this is where you start with the fees. Mutual funds have two types of fees. They have a one-time fee, and they have an ongoing operating fee. Expense, they call it. The initial charge, as I told you before, it's based on the class. See, this one has no charge, but you need to know if you even qualify to buy it, because the minimum amount to invest might be large, which is why there's no fee. This one might say you have to hold it for 5, 6, I don't know how many years, but just a scenario, and you don't pay any upfront fee. You just pay a fee, a small fee, when you sell it. That's the deferred sales charge. That's what that means. This is a charge. This one, the Class A, is one where you pay upfront. When you purchase the fund, you pay it upfront, and you can sell it anytime you want. You don't have to hold it. This one may require you to hold it for a certain amount of time. This one may require you to have a certain amount of money to purchase it and hold it. So it's a combination. You just have to confirm. You know now what to ask your financial advisor after you review this before you buy the fund. So this is the one-time fee. So for example, for Class A, your total fee would be that one-time fee plus the 1.3% annual based on the amount of money you have in the fund. All of these, they add up, subtract, add, subtract, and you end up with this. This is the final number as far as the annual operating expenses, which include a management fee. The fund has to pay the experts running it. They have to pay for research. They have to pay for all kinds of things. This covers it, but it's all of the people's money that are in the fund that cover all of that, and you need to pay for that. And they have to provide you with a scenario. If you invest 10,000 and you hold it for 1 year, this is how much you would pay. Class A, B, C, and advisor for 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years. So look at these numbers very closely. See if you have money to invest in the fund. Are you willing to pay that fee for the return that is proposed to you? This is the principal strategies of the fund. This is actually what they're declaring they're going to do with the money, and they can't do anything unless they change this and resubmit it. So when you look at this, you have to say to yourself, is this something that I want to deal with these fees? and what follows that. I usually don't look at this chart. I look at the actual reported return. For example, this fund, when you look at it, you can see that you have a 1 year. I'm just looking at the Class A as an example. Minus 20% 1 year return. Minus 1.28% since the fund was founded. And so on a $20,000 and a $10,000 investment after 1 year, you'll be left with $1,800, not including the sales charge, and that's on top of the sales charge and the management fees, the operating expense fee. So there you are, and finally you've got some information, summary about the managers, and then the initial investment. Tells you for each of the classes. So when you speak to your advisor, they're going to propose a fund and a class of the fund. So you can look it up here and see how much minimum, and you can look up and see the performance, and you can look it up and then see the fees. This is usually like very cryptic on when you are speaking to agents, brokers, but you've got to make the decision yourself. You've got to put the numbers on the spreadsheet. You've got to see how long you're going to hold the fund and what you are willing to accept. Don't have someone make this decision for you. Okay, now this is it for the manual process. You've got everything here. Any single fund that is in existence, you come here, you plug this information on that screen that I showed you. You'll go into the imports, look at all the investments, see if these are companies you enjoy, these are companies you know, or these companies you like, the non-equity, non-bond type of transactions such as derivatives, equities lending, securities lending. Is this something you feel comfortable, you understand? So all of these are things that you can analyze before you make an investment. It doesn't take a whole month to do that. For a small investor looking at one or two or three funds on a monthly basis, even a couple of funds on a weekly basis, this is something it takes about 15-20 minutes to do if you set up your spreadsheet and then you copy that information down to review all in one page. Quickly before we're done, let me just show you how we would do the opportunity to automate this. For the import report, quickly, the import report, the ACC provides this information in an XML form. That's a computer format that's very easy for the computer to understand and translate. It looks different, but if you look at the text, it's the same thing as that. What I showed you on that web page, it's just very easy for the computer to just look at each line and pull out the information and save it in the file that you can Excel or any other spreadsheet can read and analyze. So this is what you would do. You would actually not even come to this web page. You would just have the computer fetch this file for you directly. It's called the primary.doc, primary_doc.xml. The computer would fetch that as if it's were fetching a web page, would download it, read each line, convert it, and then save it into a format that a spreadsheet can understand. As far as the 497K, for the 497K, the SEC provide a different channel, which is the mutual fund prospectus risk return files. These are files that the SEC produce on a quarterly basis for people to be able to review. Remember the information dissemination aspects of these mutual funds, so the SEC makes this available for anybody to come in and you would download this file. And we won't go into all the details here, but this file has a number of files and directions inside of it on how to um, have the computer read those files and convert them to, some of them already converted. You just have to read them with the computer and have the computer put them into a spreadsheet for you. You need a little bit of computer knowledge, maybe coding, but for the purpose of this video, we've covered what we needed to cover for a small investor, individual investor, somebody who cares about his or her money and wants to make sure that they understand what is happening in a fund that is being presented to them by their financial advisor before they make the final decision and put their money in the fund. Thanks so much for watching. Within the next few weeks, I will be posting the details in a video of the details of step by step to get this process automated so that there's not even a need to come to the SEC website.